You ever wonder what happens when you type in a URL and press enter on your keyboard in your web browser and how this magical information appears in front of you? Or what people mean when they talk about web applications and ports and what actually is a cookie? Today we're going to learn all of that, and we're going to explain it in a way for people who aren't familiar with the more technical nuances of the computer world. My name is Will, and welcome to my Intro to the Internet series. So today we're talking about HTTP. HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It was invented in 1989 by this guy, Tim Berners-Lee. He's largely considered the founder of the World Wide Web, and he has a pretty interesting story. HTTP is a protocol used for fetching resources around the web, normally HTML documents, but there are some other things like web applications and JavaScript files that we'll get into in a different video. But really what you need to understand is that this is the way by which your computer and your browser communicate with the server. When Tim Berners-Lee designed HTTP and essentially created the World Wide Web, he did it just because he wanted to share information with people. The only thing that it was supposed to really go and do was get basically text documents from servers and display it like a news article or something like that. And it's become so much more now. There's web applications and JavaScript and personalized ads and all these amazing things. So now that you understand what HTTP is, let's get into what actually happens when you press that enter button. So let's say that you, the user, tell your computer, the client, that you want to get information from google.com and you want to navigate to that website. Your computer doesn't actually know where google.com exists per se. So it's going to go to what's called a domain name server, and it's going to ask for the location of google.com. And it's going to do this by asking that DNS server for an IP address. Now, the details and nuances of IP addressing are outside of the scope of this video, but just think of it as a physical address for the information that it's trying to retrieve. So the DNS server is going to come back to your computer with an address, an actual address that your computer is going to go to retrieve that information. And then your computer is going to say, okay, awesome. So we're going to go over there and we're going to ask that server for its default information. And your computer is going to do this by making what's called a GET request. So quite literally, I want to get the information that you have, and the server is going to respond with that. And I'm going to show you what a GET request looks like and what the response looks like as well. So we're going to kind of explain that when you accidentally right-click on that web page and you see all that messy code, that's what your web browser is interpreting, and then it's going to display that back to you in a way that you can read it. Okay, so the tool here we're going to be using is called Burp Suite, and what this tool does and the way that it functions is really outside of the scope of this video. But all that you really need to understand is that it allows me to analyze traffic as it's being sent and received to my device. So I'm going to give you guys an example of a GET request. As you can see here, I've already navigated to google.com, and if I come over here, I can see the history of the way that my computer processed these requests. The part that I really want to focus here is the host, the HTTP method, and the directory. And the response that we got was a 301 move permanently, which is also known as a redirect, and then the location that it's going to redirect me to. All this was doing was upgrading my request to HTTPS, and we'll cover the nuances of HTTPS in a different video. And if I continue navigating down this page, you see all these different things that my computer is asking for that are getting loaded. And a lot of these are scripts and functions and things like that. But what's happening behind the scenes is that my browser or Chrome is actually taking all of this information and all of this code, and it's building this web page. It's building its way to display all of this stuff back to me. And if you were only going to load this page statically, you would see this, but you wouldn't be able to interact with a lot of it. But the way that Google works and everything that it tracks and all the amazing stuff that it does is loaded through these requests. And that's the important part to understand. Okay, now that you guys have seen that, hopefully you have a very elementary basic understanding of what happens when you press the enter key. And we're going to dive in more into this in future videos, and my next one will be about URLs and breaking those down and all those things that they can contain, and so that you can actually look at it and understand what your computer is asking for. But if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Of course, you have to say that, and I'll see you next time.